Welcome to the Boundless Bible. My name is David Shapiro.
Hey, I'm Javi Marquez.
And I'm Jason Holloway.
Welcome, everyone. How's it going?
What's going
Having
on?
a lovely one. How are you?
Doing great. I am pumped for today.
Yes.
It is definitely a kind of an odd thing that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So the topic is going to be evangelism. It's how to speak to others about Christ.
Yeah.
But we're going to use a story that uses Christ to talk about how to talk about Christ.
Okay.
Interesting. Let's do it.
Which is going to be interesting. This is the Jesus and the woman of Samaria.
Yeah. Oh,
John 4, 1 through 39 is where we're going to be using.
Okay.
But this goes all the way to 45. But John 4, 1 through 39. And this is the Samaritan woman comes to the well, and the apostles have gone into town, and it's just Jesus and her
Right.
sitting around the well. And there's this really great interaction that happens between Jesus and her. And ends up being all about evangelism and how to speak about him.
Yeah.
But the first thing he does, which is really, really cool, is she is the first person that Jesus openly reveals who he is.
Yeah, that's true.
He
Yeah.
has not yet revealed himself to anybody. He has done miracles, but he has not revealed himself as the Messiah to anybody. And he does that with her. So it's, and what's even more mind-blowing is this is a woman of Samaria. This is somebody who the Hebrews would not engage in conversation with. And more than that, she's actually at the well. And when you look at the time, she's at the well at noon.
But what I've heard about that, it's, and please, David, correct me if I'm wrong, but like they looked at like the Jewish looked at people from Samaria or Samaritans as like unclean.
Yes.
Yes.
Like they're just spiteful. They're people that that worship. Also, they incorporated the Greek gods into their culture and all that stuff, right? And they're like they're mixed, right?
They would never be caught sitting and having a conversation.
Not at all. No.
Period. Ever.
No.
And she's coming about the 6 hours, what the Bible says, and that means it's about noon.
Yeah.
And that's also very odd because when people went to draw water, they would do this early in the morning. They would not wait for the sun of the day to come. And she's doing it at noon. So it's even showing us something further. So it's this woman that he would never have a conversation with, coming at a time that already puts her in a perspective of not only a woman that we wouldn't talk to, but you're coming at a time where what'd you do wrong?
Yeah, why are you coming this time?
Why are you trying to hide yourself from everybody else? So this is all happening undertone. Again, this has nothing to do with what Jesus is saying. This is just kind of setting the story.
Backstory,
for what exactly is about to happen. And then Jesus starts to acknowledge her, talk to her, and point out things like, I know the sin you've done.
Yeah.
I know you've had 5 husbands. I know that you're living one right now that you're not married. He's kind of pointing things out to her, but not in a judgmental way. He is literally just pointing out, hey, you're here at this time because of these things. And, you know, and it's this really cool moment where he is starting to open up her heart for what he's about to talk. And what she's doing is she's actually responding in a very normal fashion. She doesn't really take anything of it right now. She's going, how are you drawing water? You don't even have something to draw water with.
Yeah.
You know, she's just trying to.
Strange man, you're at a well trying to draw water and you don't have a pail or whatever you call it.
And he is just getting her to talk. And that's the first part of this that I really want to talk about, which is, you know, sometimes we are, and when I say we, I say people who want to be evangelists, people who want to spread the gospel, people who feel like, hey, it's my job to spread God's word, which we know it is. It's a great commission.
Right.
But what they start with is let me tell you what I think, and they start right into it.
Right.
What Jesus is doing is, let me get you to talk and I can respond.
Yeah.
And this is something where I look at couples and, you know, you look at couples therapy and what do they say? Are you responding by listening first, or you're responding because you had the answer before you were even?
Well, for me, what I see in the story here, it's Jesus, the Jewish man, going to a Samaritan woman, which they would never speak to them. And when I think about that in evangelism, is just the approach of going, you know what, everyone could use a savior. Everyone needs a savior. And the culture bounds, the gender difference there is like, it doesn't matter. Like everyone could use hope. And that's what I see there when I first read it, but as we go deeper into it, there's more happening.
Well, he's crossing boundaries. He's crossing boundaries right now.
Yeah, for sure.
He is opening up a conversation. One of the things I really love, and I'm just going to kind of step back and go, Jesus, when he preaches to people, and Paul did the same thing, is they say different things to different people from where they are.
Right.
And it's impossible to do that if you don't listen. I can't tell where you are in your journey, in your head. I can't give you the answer. I can't say, well, Jesus is the answer for all that unless I know what that problem really is.
Yeah. And I'm going to say that. I'm going to say like, so we can't evangelize we could evangelize to anyone, but for someone to not tell the truth, if you want to hear the truth, they have to be open to hear the truth, but also share the truth. Meaning, like Jesus Christ asked her, right? Hey, you have a husband, right? To go back to, or you have no husband, right? So Jesus didn't have to ask her anything. He knows what's happening in her life, but he gave her the chance to tell the truth. And by her telling the truth to Jesus, you're open up now. You're open to receive some truth. Does that make sense? And I think I look back at Matthew 10:14, right? So this is Jesus sending out the apostles in twos. Go out and preach the word. This is evangelism, right? Go out, knock on doors, and share the good news, right? And what he says here in scripture, it says, if anyone would not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. If they're not willing to hear the truth, if they don't want to accept the truth, then you can't. You're talking to the wall. So there's that truth when you're speaking to others, non-believers, or people just struggling with the faith. If they're not open to receive the truth, it's hard for you to even share the good news.
Well, let me ask you: if somebody's not ready to receive it, and Jesus is, because this woman might not have been ready to receive this, but Jesus was able to enter in this conversation. He was able to open her up enough to not only understand what he's saying and hear what he's saying, but we'll go into what she does afterwards. But, we're talking about a full conversion here from somebody who's totally shut down to somebody who's wide open from it. Let me just ask you, hearing that, hey, if somebody's not listening to you, you should just kind of walk away and shake that dirt from your feet. Is that something that we can look at as, hey, this is the principle I want to live my life by? Or, hey, no, maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe I'm evangelizing wrong. I
think in the approach, I look at them, and as you are going about your life or your day, let's say I meet somebody within the grocery store or whatever it is, and I hear, and this is how I approach it, at least. If I hear an opportunity to share some truth in their life, right? If I speak to them and go, hey, how much are these apples? And they go, whatever it is, and we're going to a story and they're open enough, I might share Christ with them in that instance, right? There's an opportunity for us. There was a truth that we met, like, hey, I'm having the struggles and I'm able to provide a hope out of that struggle. But if the conversation, it's very flat, they don't want to accept anything or receive anything, I might not share Christ with them. I'll be loving to them. I'll be Christ-like to them, but I wouldn't maybe approach them in that way. Maybe that's different or wrong, but I think that's what it is. Even when you look at street evangelism and stuff like that, that could be, it's a little different. You're out there. This is what I'm here for, to share good news. Come here. If you step forward, you're willing to accept the truth from what I'm here for to share.
I got it. What I hear sometimes, and this is with evangelism in general, is we have a reason we're doing this. We have this purpose, and we're doing it for that. What Jesus is doing here, and this comes out right from the beginning when he's talking about the water, and he's saying, you're going to be thirsty again. Yeah. If you want the living water. I love
that. Oh my.
And let's just hit on the living water for a few minutes, because what he is saying is not, hey, you're not listening to me. I have something better. This is, because he is saying the living water is better, but he's laying it down in a different way. And again, we have to go back into the context of them.
Yeah.
She is drawing water for life. This is why they draw water. I'm drawing water so I can live.
Right.
what is living water? What is he talking about? Because she's going, what exactly is living water?
Yeah.
I need water.
Living water in Hebrew also means running water. It would have been the common term for it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what is the running water for in Hebrew context? If you think about water and running water, that's purity.
Yeah.
That's the mikveh. That is everything they do in Levitical law. The only way to attain purity is through living water, is through running water.
Yeah. The part of the story that hits me as evangelism is not so much. I'm just going kind of a different direction. The part that hits me as evangelism is that he uses common verbiage that she would have been used to, and then he just changes the perspective on her a little bit. He comes and he says, "Will you give me a drink?" And she is surprised that he's asking for the drink.
Yeah.
Because he, by culture, he shouldn't be.
Right.
And so first of all, he's entering into this situation that most people don't, which is confusing to her. And then, she says, "But you don't even have the bucket." And it's not that she's not willing. She's just trying to understand why he's here in the first place. And then what he does is, I think, masterful conversation. We've talked so many times about Jesus meeting or God meeting you where you're at.
Right.
He meets her where she's at.
Mm-hmm.
He takes something that she's very, very well aware of. He takes something that get it?
Got it.
Sorry. She's very well aware of. And he ends up taking a concept that she knows.
Right.
And he turns it into something that she was, and she even says beforehand, "I was expecting the Messiah. The Messiah is going to come. And when the Messiah comes, he's going to tell me what's going on. When the Messiah comes, he's going to tell." She does believe. She's already ready, but she doesn't, she believes in the concept of it, but she doesn't know it's him.
Yeah.
And what he does, and I think this is really fascinating and really brilliant, is he takes this concept that she knows and he turns it into something that she can understand in saying that the living water that you constantly have to draw from, you don't have to constantly draw from it anymore. And now he's changed universes from the one you drink to the one that you take into your soul.
Yeah.
But this is what I think that evangelism is as well. It's not about walk up and go, "Hey, you sinner, stop being a sinner, you screw up."
Yeah, right.
It's looking at somebody with compassion, with empathy, and understanding their situation.
Right.
And to the point where even when he talks to them about, you have a husband or you don't have a husband, you've had 5.
Right.
Obviously, we're never able to soothsay and know what's going on in their lives. We don't have that information. But like you said earlier, we can listen and we can find out. And then once we know enough, then we can alter our statements of faith to something that they understand and a concept that they can understand and a way they can understand. And being able to be flexible like that is, I think that's the difference between a good evangelist and a bad evangelist. Yeah. Telling somebody that they're a bunch of sinners who screw up all the time, and having this very inflexible.
Although very true,
but it's not going to get anywhere,
that's
right?
Tough, yeah.
And so with her, when he acknowledges her and he doesn't condemn her.
He doesn't.
When he acknowledges her sins and doesn't condemn them, and he continues to say, "The living water is still here for you."
Yeah.
Like, this is what I can like visually picture myself talking to somebody who's going through something and saying, "I see your sins.
Yeah.
I see your problems. I see your faults.
Yeah.
I see your challenges, but there is something out there that's going to help you.
Yeah.
There is a God who's going to help you. I'm never going to be able to say, 'I am he,' woman, go tell everyone, but I can say I'm full of he, and I want to pass he back on to you."
Yeah. I think the thing about our faith, or just God, period, it's, we all live life, and sometimes life happens. And I feel like there's hope. And by us evangelizing, sharing the hope, which is not ours to have, right, or to keep, it's ours to share the good news, right? That's the hope. And I think anyone could receive hope.
Yeah.
And also, are we living that? Are we transformed? Because if you're not transformed, again, this becomes very challenging.
Yeah,
and then the other thing that you look at.
That's a good point, though, David. I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like if we're not living that way and people know we're not living that way, it's hard for them to receive that truth.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, you're telling me to follow this life?
It's impossible for them to follow that truth. I mean, it's like, for what reason? Like, you're the same person I knew 10 years ago.
You're just as bad
doing
as
the same
like,
things.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, why are you that sounds like condemnation. But when they see the change in your life and they see how you have changed, or more importantly, how God has changed you, and then they want that change.
Right.
And they see that change. And
that's
now,
the power of testimony, right?
when I'm drinking from the well of God and the water is changing me, then they want to drink from that same well.
Yeah. And you're always pointing to Jesus, not perfection. Because you're not going to be perfect. Yeah. You have to point to Jesus. With testimony, Javi, we just mentioned, testimony is such an important thing. The reason why we all have different testimonies is because we can all approach people differently.
That's good. Right.
And people go through things. So one of the things that used to drive me crazy when I was learning to be a chaplain was if somebody's going through something and the chaplain would say, I know exactly what you're going through. And they start to go into the thing. Yeah. No, you don't. And that's the first response in somebody's brain when they're in a really dark places. Right. You don't understand me. You've never gone through what I'm going through and all. And right now, Jesus is not going, poor you. I know what you feel like and all of that. No, he's hitting her with truth, but in grace. And that's the trick is he's not condemning her. He's not judging her. Right. He is just showing her grace and showing her a better way. Yeah. And that's really what it is. And by the way, just because I love it, running water, Mayim Chaim is actually the way to say it. Okay. Mayim Chaim, which is just fun to say.
Mayim Chaim?
Mayim Chaim.
That sounds like my doctor.
So the next
for a second too, as I said that out loud, I realized that I had never considered that Jesus is using another symbology here. He's standing in front of a well saying, there's water there. Yeah. But then at the same time, he's pointing to himself and saying, I am the other well. Yes. I am the well by which you can drink different water. He's not saying that, if you get that water from there and I bless it, it's going to become that. It's like, I just never considered that he's saying that I am the infinite well, the infinite spring. I am the Father who is the water that will give you life. And I don't know, I just never put the visualization.
I'm about to add to it now to you. Please. So even adding to that, when she's talking about the well of regular water, she's saying you have nothing to draw it, and the well is deep.
Right, it's deep. Yeah,
your well of living water is not. Yeah, his well is very accessible for everybody. So we start thinking about how to get your water, how to get that. Mm-hmm. You get this water from this well, man. You're going to be working for it. Wow. God's living water. Right. That well is not deep. It's very accessible.
It's very accessible. She had to walk a long way at a harsh hour to get it. So she also understands how much of a blessing it is to be able to access that well from wherever you are.
Oh, wow. I love that layer there. Mm-hmm. That's a deep layer there. No pun intended. Like it's a deep
well of
layer.
Wells.
Yeah, deep well layer. Yeah. Because, she's a Samaritan, so I'm not sure exactly her culture in that sense of her religion or how she approaches things, but I know to the Jewish faith and the stuff that you have to do to even reach God. To even speak to him, to the stuff that you have to, the 600 and something rules that you have to do to uphold to reach this purity or something. It's deep. It's very layered. Where God is like, no, I'm accessible, and not only am I easily accessible, it's a living water that you have forever in your life.
Well, I think, Jewish people feel as though God is accessible to them as a people. Yeah. But she's not one of them. Right. And they would have been quick to tell her she's not one of them.
Yeah.
So for her, it might have seemed.
Yeah. He does too, right? Yeah. He does too. He says, right, you're the God that you worship on this mountain.
Well, she's also very clear going, I don't know what you're doing talking to me. Like sir, do you know who you are and who I am? Yeah. Meanwhile, he knows everything about you. It's such a great question where she's going, kind of, do you know who I am? And he's going, oh yeah. Yeah. Do you know who I am? Mm-hmm. And that's even a really cooler, kind of moment. What happens after this is when you talk about evangelism and how to talk about Christ, we talked right now just about people seeing her transformation. She runs to the village. Right. She runs to her village with her testimony now. Yeah. And she is telling everyone, you have to see this guy. She is now completely transformed and changed from this interaction with Jesus, and then takes that the next step further. Yeah. And that's that part where I'm going, evangelism isn't just, I'm going to say the words, I'm going to come with an agenda. She has no agenda. She is literally just going to her village and sharing this news with them. Not with the thought of, let me change all of these people's minds. Just look what this man did to me.
Yeah. Your testimony that we talk about it. There's songs about it. Your testimony holds so much weight in sharing it to other people to receive the hope of Christ. And if that's all you know, that's enough.
Yep. I used to ask people, and I'm sure it doesn't come from me, I heard it somewhere, I just don't remember, is, when we talk about, hey, I need to eat at a good Italian restaurant tonight, my friends will be like, oh, there's this Italian restaurant, it's the best. You have to try this and get this dish, and they'll go on and on and on.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Jesus, are we doing it the same way? Are we going, listen, I had Jesus in me. Yeah. You have to experience this. It's different than you've ever had before. Yeah. This is the best dish ever. We don't do it the same way.
You see that joy in her when she's sharing. Yeah.
Yep.
She told town.
Well, she becomes an evangelist herself.
Right. Exactly.
She
the first evangelist, I think, right? It says,
probably. Yeah, to some extent.
Look at it. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, the idea here is she knew how unworthy she felt. Forget the Samaritan part. Okay. She knew she felt unworthy because she had been married 5 times, and now she was living in an he was in an unmarried situation. And so by all accounts in Samaritanism or Jewishism, she would have been unclean sinner. Right.
Yeah.
And she knew, or she would have been an outcast to some extent, or so far so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this man comes along and says, don't worry, everything's fine. I see that to the point where I will call it out. That's how well I do know you. And yet I'm telling you that you are, that you have my love, my forgiveness, my attention, my goodness, regardless of all those things. And the weight off her must have been tremendous.
Yeah.
To the point where, and I think this is the point about evangelism. It's like, if you felt something that big, if you've eaten that best dish at the Italian restaurant, your next step should be to go tell everybody about that Italian dish, right? And she felt the love.
Yeah.
She felt the acceptance. She felt the welcoming, and she wanted everyone else to feel it as well.
Yeah. John 4:39 says, many of the Samaritans from that town believed in him because of that woman's testimony.
Yeah.
And
I guarantee she didn't argue them into belief.
Right.
She's just sharing.
She didn't academicize them into belief and go, well, no, these are the 12 reasons for evidence. Like,
that's it. She just shared. I mean, we imagine to be a moment.
Well, imagine she transformed too. Remember, the whole community knows her, and they know that she's probably a different kind of person, and they know how.
Yeah.
She was probably shamed and shameful and kept her head down. I mean, look, she wouldn't even go to the well until everybody else was gone. That's the kind of shame she had.
Right.
And now here she is running into the streets saying that, God has come, God has come, God has come.
That is a great point.
When they see her change, again, it goes back to the transformation we talked about before. Now, this happens immediately, but in our lives, we find God in a dark place. We change our lives. We get better. We become better. We speak better. We're more peaceful. We're more patient. We're more kind.
Yeah.
And people see that change, and now all of a sudden, they can believe as well. So it's like our responsibility not just to learn from God, but to express the change of God in our lives for the benefit of others as well.
Yeah. And she never slowed down. And again, this is church tradition. So, these are snippets of little ancient manuscripts and writings, but they have her name as Fotini, which means the enlightened one.
Okay.
And she was apparently baptized and then spread the gospel to North Africa and Rome, and eventually was martyred by Nero. But this was the first evangelist who spread. She didn't just have this experience, go and tell somebody, and that was it, and let it sit there. She had such a traumatic experience, such a wonderful time with Jesus that transformed her entire life, that she totally changed her ways, became an evangelist, to the point where she was martyred, but brought that to distant lands, traveling, time. It stayed with her.
Well, let's go back to testimony for a minute, because that's, again, this is one of those things that sometimes we talk about what testimony means. And I think you said it really eloquently, which is that people have gone through things. And so when certain people tell you, I've been there, it means I've been there. And so when they tell you, I know what you feel like, they really do know what you feel like. And, I know that a lot of people, especially people who feel very unworthy to come back to the faith, don't realize that unworthiness is also what makes them worthy. That, drug addiction, or that alcoholism, or that huge mistake, or that I'm not going to say the millions of things people could have done wrong, but somebody else is doing those same things wrong and they feel unworthy now. And it's the ability to say to somebody who is, upset with themselves and won't allow themselves to forgive themselves, to have somebody say, I feel you. I know where you're at. I really do understand you. And so whatever trial or tribulation that you're going through, or whatever past things that you've done that you're embarrassed of, that you're ashamed of, can become your biggest strength as a Christian, because you can find groups of people who are like that and help them get through the thing that God helped you get through. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. I'm going to say, even with evangelism and like this woman, and what she did, she spoke to her town. She didn't go to the Jews and try to convert them to Christianity or to let them know that, the Messiah is here. She spoke to her people. Mm-hmm. And I think we could understand that as people. Like, I might not be my testimony might not be for everyone, or I can't speak to somebody that maybe I've never walked in their shoes. Like you were saying before, David, like my testimony might not be the same way if I was to go, I've been there before as let's say I'm speaking to a drug addict or something like that, that's overcoming their addiction. If I was there before, I could relate, I could understand what they're going through and let them know, hey, I found living water. Come here, draw living water from here. Because I'm able to say certain
You're going
words,
to the wrong well.
I'm able to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's what she became, this big evangelism, and that's where she probably approached a lot of things,
That, and I think that when you struggle with something, you are coming from a place of humility. You are coming from a place of shame,
empathy.
You have that, you build that up to where when you are coming back to the faith, if you're somebody who's struggling and you're saying, listen, I don't feel like I'm worthy, you are more worthy than somebody's on the top of their mountain going, I'm the best person ever and I deserve all of this and all of that. And I'm going, no, the better evangelist is the one that has struggled, who feels humble, who is going to come from this place of darkness for a moment and go, I was this deep and God brought me out.
And God's going to put you in front of the people who you need to be in front of after that too. Like, I remember when I first came back, one of the things that I felt very shameful for having left for so long. Like that was my thing. Like, I felt very shameful. I was like, I had this plan to be in ministry when I was in, 18 years old. And then I kind of left it behind and went on this whole worldly way. And when I came back, I felt very guilty for that, for having searched for so many other things. And one of the things that was told to me was like, it wasn't for naught. You spent all these years learning about all these other faiths and all these other, agnostic beliefs and scientific beliefs.
Right.
And now the amount of people that I now have conversations with who are struggling believers because of some scientific thing or some, other religious thing. I have a lot of answers that other people don't have. I just have perspectives that other people don't have. And not to say that they're better or worse, they're just different. And they're more attuned towards people who feel like that. Right. And, the same thing goes, again, I think if you're an addict or if you're gambling or, whatever those things are, and if you overcome them, you know what it feels like to have to overcome those, and you can talk to those people more directly.
That's good.
Yeah. Listen, if you see us as a symbolic Italian restaurant and you want to spread what we do and what we say to other people, we would love to. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to know what you think of this episode and others, what you're thinking of for future episodes.
We don't do Yelp reviews, but we do Apple reviews.
Yes, we do. We do Apple reviews.
If you see me as a garlic knot, that's exactly. I'm a garlic roll.
I will never not now.
But we appreciate you listening, and we can't wait to see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
See you. Speak to you next time. Something.